Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone. My name is Saman Habibi, and today I am very happy to bring onto the channel and onto my show the Mayor of Pickering, Mr. Kevin Ashe. Thank you for joining me and giving me this opportunity.
Anytime I get to talk about my city, I'm always excited. So thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. We know that the Durham region is growing a lot. It's becoming the talk of everyone who's looking for a new place to move to. The Durham region. Pickering is very attractive because of its proximity to Toronto and the rest of the GTA. So I just wanted to have this conversation with you to essentially provide as much insight to current residents, future residents, anyone who is who's running a business in Pickering, and try and give them as much value as we can.
Sure.
So essentially, I wanted to start with talking a little bit about housing infrastructure. It's funny because when I look onto the data that's out there in terms of population, our existing population and where we're projected to go in the next 20, 30 years, I see mixed numbers. Can you give me what you have on your end in terms of data of current population and where we're projected to go?
Sure. We're about, as you drive into the city, those signs
Yes.
on the 401 are a bit on a date. So we always say we're about 100 to 105,000 people. We expect to be 225 to 250 in the next 30 years. So there's going to be a dramatic increase in our population. We're going to be the largest municipality in terms of population. Right now, we are fifth in population. Ajax is bigger, Whitby's bigger, Oshawa's bigger. Clarington's actually bigger in terms of population. We're going to be the number one in population. And I think we have what I'm calling the Pickering advantage. And
Yes.
I'm excited about the future.
Absolutely. With population growth comes the need for housing, comes the need for infrastructure such as, roads, highways, schooling. We know that housing development's happening. There's a lot of builders that are coming to the area. So if I kind of take a bird's eye view of Pickering, the south has developed, central Pickering is developing. We have the Seaton community, and then we have Claremont and such up north. Do you see the development happening more so up north? Would you like to see the development happening up north, or are we trying to connect south to mid first and then go further north?
Two answers to that. One is people need a choice in housing, and I think that's very important. We need everything from affordable housing up to estate lots, which are currently for sale up in Claremont. And we have really down in the south of Pickering, along the transportation corridor, we have plans for high levels of intensification in terms of condos and apartment living. We have Seaton, which is a community that is going to be very large in terms of 70,000 people or so. We're probably only about a quarter of the way in terms of build out. And we're awaiting approval of the official plan on the minister's desk for all of Durham. And that would include the urban expansion for what's called Northeast Pickering. So we really have opportunities for growth in our downtown area, an emerging downtown, Seaton, and also Northeast Pickering, which would be the Varane development. Really excited about that being kind of a palette that's empty, and you can do all the things that are happening good around the world in terms of making it sustainable, connected, and I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Absolutely. You bring up some good points in terms of the high density. We're talking about Universal City, Center City, and right by the Pickering Town Center. I think those are great developments going up. And I think for the millennials coming in or the millennials looking to enter the market, that's a great area for them to begin. In terms of the Seaton development, I know that it's further north. Can you talk about schooling up there? Are there, in the official plan that we're talking about or waiting to come out, are we expecting to see some school options up north for the residents that are moving there?
Absolutely. We have currently working with the provincial government about our former workstation, which is up Brock Road. We have a school site attached to the Rick Johnson Park in Seaton, but there needs to be much, much more. That is not the responsibility of the city, but it is our responsibility to make sure that we're doing planning, that we have places of worship,
Yes.
places for schooling in our communities. And I'm very supportive of working with our trustees that are elected to look after schools to make sure that we have completed communities, because I really think is important from a safety point of view as well as a quality of life point of view, that kids can walk to school as opposed to getting a bus and go a half an hour. So
Yes, excellent. On the topic of housing, Bill 23, I know that it's been a controversial bill because it's supposed to come in and allow for more housing to come into development, but then you have the argument of the development charges not being charged. In terms of housing, I want to talk about Bill 23 and more so the additional dwelling units, because there's a lot of bungalows in Pickering where they're situated on bigger lots that would allow for these dwelling units to happen. Are we starting to see those in Pickering? If yes, great. If no, would you like to see more of these happening in order to increase housing stock?
absolutely. I talked about a housing choice, and we need everything from bunkhouses in the backyard to safe units inside a house. We passed a motion at our council meeting as recently as Monday of this week on the 22nd about calling on our public utilities to waive connection fees for these second dwelling units. So I think it's important to do that. We are just getting responses. I know we've the additional dwelling units, I think, are an important mix. And you mentioned millennials in terms of condo buying.
Yeah.
It's also an exit from the home ownership market for people. What do we call them? Seniors? Yeah.
I guess,
Who
yeah.
who don't want the burden of a $10,000 tax bill and looking after a house. They want to turn the key and go to Florida or
Yes.
or the grandkids or whatever. So I really think that condo living is an entry to a marketplace, but also an exit from the housing market.
Yes.
And when you have a senior that's been here 20, 30, 40 years, moves to a condo, we have very successful Tridel senior living in our downtown core. And, Center Court is looking at 8 towers of residential, one office as well as one hotel. So you're quite right. The new buyer doesn't want to spend $50,000 on a parking spot, doesn't want to spend $50,000 on a car. They want to be close to transit, and they want to be close to Uber or zip cars.
Yes.
I think we're becoming much more urbanized in terms of the housing stock.
Yes. Great points there. We're starting to see trends of, seniors, to your point, selling their detached 2-story home and going to one of these apartment buildings. So it's very real. Continuing on the topic of housing, I know that short-term rentals are a very popular thing. A lot of investors are doing this. Is there currently any regulation on short-term rentals here in Pickering?
No, we have not done any regulations in regards to what people would know as Airbnbs. We haven't seen it as a huge issue yet. We see it more in Toronto for tourists and the like, but it's something on our radar. We are looking at regulations for Uber, like a rideshare program, and Airbnbs are on our radar. But when we talk about condos, and people say, well, why are you building all these condos? Condos are also an important component of the rental market because
Yes.
Often the majority of the units are done by investors. And that's a stock of housing that is typically done on a rental basis. So I wouldn't want to limit the investor's opportunity to make money to have any bylaws that are too restrictive to lessen the housing market for renters as well. So it's an important balance to have.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the supply is great in order to control prices and not, make sure prices go up on the rent, on the purchase side. Great. So we covered housing. I want to kind of jump into commercial, industrial. We are starting to see a lot of development happening along the 4-7. There's industrial parks in the rest of the Pickering area as well. I feel like I hear from some people, there's another big industrial building going up. The 4-7 is becoming very commercialized. Can we talk about the importance of having commercial development in our regions. And perhaps we can talk about, what that means from a tax revenue perspective and what that can do to the city going
Sure.
forward.
A lot of our residents are transplant, often from Scarborough or somewhere in the city, that move out to Pickering for a bigger home, a safer environment, and they get some sticker shock when they get their taxes. And in Pickering, we have about 85 to 86% of our tax revenue is directly from the property tax base, only about 15% from the industrial waste. So when people from Toronto come to Pickering, they see that sticker shock. And the reason why taxes in Toronto are so low is because of their success in terms of commercial and industrial. So my goal as mayor, I want to be the jobs mayor. I want to bring jobs here to Pickering. I want there to be a reverse commute in the morning. People come from Toronto to Pickering to get their jobs. And I think it's also important that if we have jobs here in Pickering, we increase our quality of life. We're not commuting for an hour each way. We're increasing and getting better in terms of environmental because we're not sitting on a 401 idling off often. And the tax revenue is very, very important. We need a better mix of 80, 20, 70, 30. And that's my goal, to bring more jobs here to Pickering.
So if we have more revenue coming from the industrial space, the commercial space, I think it's, I guess a lot of people would look at it and say, do my property taxes go down? But, perhaps that isn't the fix, because property taxes have to remain because it allows the city to do, what it has to do to operate. But if we get more tax revenue from the commercial space, where would you like to see that money deployed? Like, is it going into capital expenditure to provide new and up and coming, let's say, a sports complex for the city? Is it going towards the roads, to schools? Where do you think that money can be injected into?
Well, we're a community that hasn't opened a new facility for almost 30 years. So in our budget, which will be released next week, this will be our largest capital budget ever, only over $82 million paying in 2024. And current budget and operation budget of about $86 million. So those revenues are going to be needed to renew buildings, but also to build new infrastructure. And we're seeing municipal infrastructure pricing going through the roof. We just released a building agreement for a new heritage community center in Greenwood. The government Canada gave us $17 million, and we had planned on spending $30 million on it, and the tenders come in at $55 million. We are now spending over $250 million for a new recreation center in Seaton. So it's about investing in the future, but it's also about investing in the renewal of our infrastructure, because some of the southern parts here need a new senior center, need a new youth center. As long, our hockey rinks are getting a little long in the tooth. So we got to invest in those things. And commercial revenues give you so much more money. A house per acre gives you X amount. A farm per acre gives you X amount. And a money for commercial industrial about tenfold what housing is. So that's why it's important.
Absolutely. In terms of commercial development, we spoke about these developments happening, right? Can we touch on some of the big players that have come in, invested money in Durham, and maybe high level, if you can give us a sense of, for example, Durham Live, Kubota up north, Wonderbrand, what kind of positive impact are we seeing, economic impact, whether it be, taxes coming in or jobs being created, high level?
Yeah, well, we have Kubota Canada, head office here in Pickering. We have FGF, Wonderbrands, going to be bringing their operations here over the course of the next decade. 1.2 million square feet of manufacturing. It is going to be a great addition, between 3,000 and 5,000 jobs. It's going to be our number one employer. It's going to pass OPG, our nuclear station, at some point in the future. So I think having all these new job and opportunities, again, it's from a quality of life point of view. People don't have to get in the car and drive to Mississauga or get on the GO train. It's about being able to work closer to home. And I think it has so much more value in terms of being close to home. You want people not only to live here and to play here, you want them to work here.
Yes.
And that's really my goal, is to have success in terms of getting new employers along our innovation corridor. I've been doing job visits, business visits, and I'm always amazed at the stories when I go to these smaller companies and they're serving the province or the country and the world right here from Pickering.
That's right.
So many success stories, and I'd like to have some more success stories.
Absolutely, yes. You touched on OPG. Are there any updates in terms of what's happening with the 2 reactors that are remaining? Is that going to be shut down, or are there any plans in place for that?
OPG is going to be coming out here next week and making a very exciting announcement.
Okay,
So
excellent. Next week.
Yeah.
We'll wait for that.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I guess another topic that I want to talk about, perhaps the last thing we can talk about, is the Pickering Airport.
Yeah.
I know that, this has been a conversation for a very long time. And I don't want to get into, the big details of it. I just want to know, and if you'd like to touch on anything, more than welcome to. I just want to know, are we closer to making a decision, whether it's yes or no, now than we were, let's say, 5 years ago?
I think the answer is yes. My council has taken a position opposed to an airport. The reason that they're doing that is they suggest that there's a lack of a business case. The federal government has announced that they're doing a study of all capacity of Southern Ontario. And I think that summary and review will come to a conclusion that there will be a need for an expansion of commercial or passenger capacity in the GTA. A lot of the world's best and greatest cities have 2 international airports. New York has 3, Chicago, Dallas, Paris, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I am convinced that an airport, if done correctly, would be a boom economically. We don't want it to be a white elephant like the experience we had in Montreal with Dorval and Maribel. So it has to be done right, and there has to be a business case to support it. So I am confident that the government of Canada, either the current one or a future government, will be in a position to have the data to make a decision. That land was expropriated, believe it or not, in 1972. So here we are 52 years later. It was expropriated by the Pierre Trudeau government. Here we are 52 years later by a Justin Trudeau government looking at it still. So I think it's important that we finally make a decision. The government of Canada, of all stripes, have been not very good stewards of that land. Our hamlets have decayed. Our heritage buildings have decayed, and it's time to invest in the federal lands.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Any last words for anyone watching?
Well, I'm sure you can feel how passionate I am about my city. If there's someone that's looking to locate here, a business or a resident, happy to chat with them. We have a great team at City Hall that we try and have one-stop shopping in terms of economic development, and we're open for business.
Excellent. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about what's happening in Pickering or any questions for the mayor and his team, please drop it in the comment section below. And Mayor, if anyone wants to contact your team, what's the best way to do so?
mayor@pickering.ca, customer care at pickering.ca, or our website, pickering.ca. I'll reach out to me and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.